You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 284. It'll be Centrion's favorite podcast. I'm Jeremiah Morrell. Executive video audio producer engineer Zach Burcham is sitting across from me, and on my left camera right is my forever co-host, Mr. Dakota Davis.
Today's episode features the three of us, and we're going to be talking to you guys about the city election season is starting to fire up. We have candidates that are filing for office. Then we're going to preview the Indiana General Assembly 2023 legislative session. It's about to start next week. We're going to talk about Governor Holcomb and his 2023 next level agenda, what we think we might be seeing coming down the pipe in the legislative session. And then we're going to talk a little bit at the very end about whether we're ever going to get a Speaker of the House. Make sure you stick around until the very end to hear our opinions on that.
I mean, honestly, the way things are going, they may have it wrapped up before the show's over tonight. This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you, other times we'll make you laugh, but hopefully you'll always learn something new. In Patreon, we learned that Dakota is not able to solve an electrical issue for one of his family members.
It's true. You'll have to figure out which one it is.
So we got to say thank you to the folks that help us get on the air each and every week. Those patrons, including Christy Avery of Fort Wayne, Indiana, Norwex salesperson to the stars.
They have a new catalog. Reach out to Christy. She'll get you one.
Anthony Meyer, who's our meme distributor. What I've learned to do with Anthony now is if I find a meme that there's like 3 levels of getting a meme to Anthony. There's one he can just have posted and you laugh at it. There's one you can put in the official wall meme group chat. But my wife's in there, so sometimes I don't want her to know that I was complicit in some of the horrible memes that Anthony will put out there. So the third level, the holy grail of it, is that you send it directly to him, and he uses the meme. Done that a few times. These are my secrets, Dakota.
There was one time that I made a piece of original content meme, and it was sort of distasteful. I'm going to tell on myself here. So I released it on Reddit, where no one knew it was me releasing it in the memes subreddit.
Did it go well?
And yeah, it went well in Reddit. And then Anthony Meyer posted it on his page. And I brought it up to him in the wall chat, and I said, "I'm glad to see my meme is doing so well on your page." That got some laughs too. That's only happened to me one time. I've made a lot of memes, and I've only ever seen one come back to me. Most of the time
You're a one-hit meme maker?
Yeah, most of the time.
A one-hit wonder?
They're flops. Anthony is the real creative genius.
I think he's more of a distributor. And then we got to say thank you to John Phillips of Andy Moore Buick GMC, Fishers, Indiana, but also a resident of Newcastle, Indiana, Ward 2.
That's right. We're going to be talking about Jonathan a little bit more. But I have an announcement to make.
Okay.
There's going to be a poll coming out on the Boss Hog of Liberty Facebook page. I don't want to have to boost this post or spend any money so that you can see it. So make sure that you go and look for it yourself. And it's going to be talking about what kinds of merchandise you want to see in our store that is forthcoming.
Do we have to have a majority of people vote for it to have it become law, or just a plurality?
Just want some ideas, T-shirts, long sleeve tees, sweatshirts. Do you want the logo on the front, on the back? What are people's ideas?
This is Jeremiah speaking. My perfect merch is logo on the front.
Small?
Maybe over the chest, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a
small logo on the
small
front.
logo on the front. Long sleeve tee. That's my go-to. That's my fall attire.
I like.
I got plenty of t-shirts to wear in the summertime, but I'm trying to step up my long sleeve tee game in the fall and winter.
We might have to do long sleeve tees. I've been getting into them myself, so we'll see. But with that being said, we can move on to talking more about Jonathan Phillips.
All right. So there has been a mad rush to the county election headquarters, the election office. The filing has opened up this week and will remain open until February 3rd. Today on social media, I guess yesterday it started. I got a text from City Councilman Aaron Dickin, who filed to run for re-election in Ward 4. So I think he's technically a co-host of the show still.
He is on the website.
So Councilman Dickin is running for re-election. Noted patron John Phillips did in fact run in Ward 2 and filed, and so did Jeff Hancock, his opponent. So we have our first official contested race. A lot of times we get these races and nobody's, it's just one or two or whatever. But there will definitely be a city election this year. Your second contested race will happen once Mayor York, I guess he did file. Mayor York filed today along with Clay Morgan for mayor. So there's two contested races, along with Mike Guffey, who ran for re-election. Of course, we broke that news at the Christmas walk.
Right. Yes.
Mike told us he was running again. And then City Judge Joe Lansinger filed for re-election as well. We've heard from Councilman Peckinpah. I guess he did. Councilman Peckinpah posted on Facebook that he's back in the race, I think. So he's in. And then Jerry Walden also has told us that he's going to be running for re-election. So a lot of races filling up.
Yeah. It's shaping up to be a pretty good one. Unlike the last time that the city had municipal elections, in which
I was going to say, did they cancel it the last time? Because
they canceled.
No, well, you had only certain precincts voted,
yeah.
right? So, like last time, former producer Chris and Jerry Walden were in a race.
They canceled the primary.
There was no primary, and I think there were only three of the council districts had competitive races.
And one of them, I can't remember who would run. I know that.
Jeff Hancock had a challenger last time in Lisa Catron.
And then Mike
Guffey
was the
won
challenger,
his.
but then the incumbent withdrew at the end of the.
Oh, Mike Guffey had to win his race. He did have to win. That was the only Democrat versus Republican. And that's what's going to be interesting this time is that you have a much stronger Republican presence filing in the city already. We're having a mayor's race means that everybody in the city is going to have to vote. And then you've got these district races as well. So it's going to be a very different municipal election because you're truly going to have a citywide election. You did not have that last time. Only 3/7 of the city. Are there seven seats? Or there are 5 wards.
Yeah.
5
so
wards,
60% of the city had to vote.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So 60% of the city actually voted last time, where this time 100% is actually going to have the opportunity and something to vote for. And it'll be the first time you've had 100% with a Republican on the ballot for mayor and these new fangled voting machines that we've been talking about.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I know that we've had a conversation. We were texting with Clay during the midterm election, and we're like, these straight ticket numbers make your bid for mayor seem very possible. So I definitely think it'll shake out to be an interesting race. We're gonna do our best to have both of them in here to talk it out.
I would imagine, just like every other time, we'll have every candidate that's on the ballot is going to be afforded the opportunity to come through, make their case. I don't know that we're going to have anything in the primary. I would be, at this point, I will feel surprised if we have a competitive primary for any of these races.
Yep.
We don't have any surprise candidates yet, but that happens pretty often. You get till February 3rd, so you've got almost an entire month as well to wait to see what's going to happen.
You've got till February 10th to challenge someone on the primary ballot to a
duel.
Yeah. Well, yes. No, we don't do government like that anymore since Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay.
President.
Okay. So, Zach, do you have any predictions on the city election? Anybody else that you think might be getting in or I know you attend these meetings. Do you have any feeling for?
Not really. I haven't heard anything from anybody else, and I haven't. There were a couple of. I haven't seen any unfamiliar faces at council meetings, which is usually can be an indication. Although you'd be surprised at like the number of people that run sometimes, and I've never seen them before, and I've been to as many meetings as about any councilman there. So no signs from. I know they just had a meeting on Tuesday. Nothing out of the ordinary or anybody expecting anything.
You feel like with the live stream you can make up for that?
Might be, yeah. I mean, like Mike was one that I'd never seen till he got elected, but people do follow along, and there's other ways of following along, so you never know. And I've never actually pulled the stream up while I'm there to check to see like how many people are watching or gone back and checked the views or anything. So I know there are some people that watch them diligently.
I do a lot of lurking at home now,
yeah,
watching meetings.
Because once in a while I'll get a message from you with commentary on what's going on in the meeting. So
I've watched a saddening number of county council, county commissioner, and zoning meetings, and then the city council meetings on YouTube. I actually do because I can multitask, right? I don't have to be sitting there in the meeting, but I can be listening to it and still getting something done at home. So all this talk of transparency, it lets you know what the heck's going on. And sometimes I feel like the media reports as well, like the Middletown News and those sort. I feel like those are sometimes coming out of that as well.
Oh, I bet they are. I'm trying to think of the name of the guy who's in there for the Courier now. Thurston?
James Thurston?
James Thurston, yeah. So that's like the third guy in a year, I think, or third person in a year to be representing the Courier in there. So yeah, there's nobody else in there that I know of that's, because a lot of times it's myself and landlord Mike and Patty, and once in a while Scott Frost is in there, and then I can't think of her last name, but Valerie's her first name, who's in there, and then that is the core group of us that are in the peanut gallery, with Carrie Barrett in and out and Corey Murphy in and out, usually as needed for their business with the city. So it's a small group of us. So that there's new people there that I know. We usually, new person, what are you up to?
You're an official member of city government without being elected to anything.
Yeah. What committee do you want to get volunteered?
Maybe they'll elect you Speaker of the House for the Speaker of the city government, since you don't have to be elected to be the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to highlight two forms of government today: the Indiana General Assembly and the state of Indiana government. And at the back end, we're probably going to end up contrasting it a little bit with the federal government, Dakota, because so many of the complaints that I'm seeing on the federal government side are things that we do in Indiana well. The federal government, the true believers seem to be telling people, we haven't amended a bill in 15 years on the floor. The only committee that actually makes any decisions is the Rules Committee. The Speaker, the only vote that matters that I make all through my term as a congressman is when I vote for Speaker. In Indiana, there's a little bit different process, and we've covered that on this show infinitely. So we have a little bit more functional form of government in Indiana. The governor announces his priorities. They do have a Republican supermajority, so what the governor says he wants to do ends up being done very often, or his priorities matter. Walk us through what you found in his media session yesterday, and what you think's coming.
Yeah, so like you said, the Governor Holcomb, Eric Holcomb, had a little media session, for lack of a better term, where he unveiled the 2023 Next Level Agenda for the state of Indiana. If you've driven on any interstates in the state of Indiana, then you might recognize the name Next Level, because we have Next Level road programs everywhere. So he said that he's going to be placing priorities on education, public health, and public safety. There were some other things peppered in there, but I think these were kind of the main points anyway. Education, we know we've been talking about this for a few years now, ever since Red for Ed really popped off, and we've been having rallies in the State House for every legislative session since. And he's hoping to increase tuition support in schools by 6%, which he says in turn would bring the average salary of Indiana teachers up to right at $60,000 a teacher.
I mean, that's nearly double what teachers were making when I married one.
Well, this is the average.
Right.
So you're going to have some that are quite lower than that, especially brand new ones in like rural school districts. Brand new teacher at Shenandoah or Tri is going to be less than that.
How do you do that without raising taxes?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's.
I know Indiana's been picking up a lot more money off of gambling revenue.
Yeah, I was going to say I think that they've looked at some things. They've got some different money coming in from different areas. I know we've definitely picked up the gambling revenue. I think that there's this issue where it seems like every single year we have got a surplus in the budget. And he did say, he made a point to say that they had just gone through with a perfectly balanced budget. So it's like, are we finding other ways to spend some of this extra money so that we don't keep putting money back and then we end up with $1 billion in surplus funds again? Which I think I would rather the state government spend more money on things like education, infrastructure, mental health, public safety, things like that, than get a $100 check in the mail every couple of years.
Maybe that's the. That's. It's such a Republican supermajority that they're starting to talk like Democrats. That's what you're having, and that's why you're seeing the challenges from the right. But when your party's been responsible for governing since 2004. You can't blame anybody else if things are not going well.
Right.
The next thing that he has on his list is one that I have to admit.
There was also the point in educate. Oh, were you going to talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that textbooks aren't free. And Zach, you're the parent with kids in school. When I was a kid in, going to elementary school in New York State, there was no book rental fee that was just included in, and this blew me away that you have to pay to rent or you have to pay to buy textbooks that belong to the school, that they're not free. I'd had no concept of that.
I don't know what the breakdown was, but for my two, I have a first grader and a fourth grader, and together it was $300. And that, I don't know if that was for the year. I have asked my wife if that's for the year.
Do you own the books, or you have to give them back, or they're digital now?
There are some. They get some workbooks that they work through, and then there's some textbooks that I never see. I remember it was like your kid, but we would get issued a book at the beginning of the year, and you'd write your name in it and be next to whoever was in the year before.
And you write your condition. Jeremiah Morrell.
Yep.
Good. Jeremiah Morrell. New.
The school year thing. I will text my wife and ask her what the thing was. But I know that right before the holiday break, it was about $300, but between the two kids.
I was gonna say, I think whenever I was in high school, I remember one year it being like $240 for my textbooks.
That's just wild to me. Why it's not included? It also makes no sense. How often do they replace them? Are they new that often?
They're so freaking old, dude.
So yeah,
it depends.
How in the hell are you spending $240 on textbooks that are as old as you are?
Like some of them would be like, I think you could say like a spelling book or something like that might go for years, and then but science book might be like every 5 to 7.
I think that the state has guidelines on when each subject has to be replaced. Yeah, but also, like Zach said, sometimes you'll get like the phonics books where you're hooked on phonics books. Like you're working through it and writing.
Yeah, my kids have
down
Simple Solutions they have a Simple Solutions math and a Simple Solutions language book, and they're working through those as it's a workbook. So those are disposable, but they're going through I think one a semester for each.
We used to. There were a couple times when I was in high school where my class was the class that got new books, so the teacher gave us the old books, and we would take them and burn them. That's what we always. Not at school. We would take them home. Like my friends and I would get together. We burn the old books.
I do remember having books. Like I said, you remember going back that there'd be a spot in the front of the book that you sign your name and you put the school year. And I remember some books that had been around long enough that they were adding lines to that box, which probably had 5 or 6 spaces in it because it had been in circulation for that long. But like I said, that might be like a spelling book where a spelling book is not
right.
Doesn't need an update or whatever.
Yeah. Health. I remember my health textbook. I remember being in health class and some kid found his uncle.
That would happen.
Book.
We had a lot like older siblings. You'd show up, but it was older siblings that were like from 7-8 years before.
Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I think that Indiana is one of only 7 states that has textbook fees still. So that's another thing that we're pretty far behind on. Maybe the governor is thinking about getting rid of things where Indiana is one of only a handful of states to still have.
Yeah, apparently we're one of 7 states that still has straight ticket voting and 7 states that has textbook fees. So maybe we can get one of our legislators to tie them together and say, we'll get rid of textbook fees if we can get rid of straight ticket voting too. Let's link them.
And this isn't true for every school, I don't think. But like what is odd is that my kids get free lunch at school and free breakfast at school, like the whole school. But you have to pay for the books. So like, here's your breakfast.
I think that isn't the free
it's
lunch and breakfast. I think that's a federal government grant.
Yeah, but it is an interesting thing. Like, we'll feed you, but like you need to pay for your books.
Yeah,
the food is based on the zip code, I assume.
Something like that, or even sometimes school by school. I think there's times where
I think there's certain elementary schools even in the same district
that can be. I'm not sure if that was I'm not sure if there's times it's school by school, and I think there's times where they try to make it like system wide. I'm not sure what that is, so I'm not going to say for sure what I noticed. But yeah, I know that's a common odd thing.
The governor also said that he wants to come out with a plan that standardizes mental health crisis response all across the state of Indiana. He also wants to add more employees for the 988 mental health distress line, so the suicide hotline. He's wanting to put a lot more money behind mental health funding. He specifically talked about mental health funding in the state of Indiana, including, I think there was going to be like $5 million that was supposed to be going to PTSD in American veterans. So that was another thing that he mentioned on the public health side. He also specifically wanted to talk about opioid addiction in the state of Indiana and how we can help fight the opioid epidemic. They are rolling out some different programs for addiction treatment that is state funded. They're going to be coming out with a finder on the website, so you'll be able to go to a website, find out where the nearest addiction treatment that is publicly funded and closest to you is going to be at, and then you can go to that location and seek help for addiction treatment and therapy. And that money is going to be coming from the $500 million that the state is expected to receive from opioid manufacturer lawsuits. So that's where all that funding is going to be coming from, and that is supposed to fund it for some time. Like it wasn't going. He was expecting to be adding more in this realm for the 2024 budget as well.
It's interesting to see that mental health is actually getting the attention it needs. Indiana, when they closed state hospitals, kind of got rid of that function.
Yeah, I was going to say that if you're old enough, you remember there used to be a time when the state had a lot more going on. That my mom was employed at a state hospital. They got shut down. And then I'm not sure if that's necessarily the same. It'd be curious. I wasn't old enough to be able to break down how that worked. But like we have a prison outside Newcastle with the jail next to it now. And that used to be a mental hospital. I don't think that was necessarily handling the types of people that need like just a little bit of help. The people my mom was working with there could not function independently.
Right.
Ever. Like now they're in group homes. They got scattered into group homes and stuff, but they couldn't.
And now those cases are basically it's been privatized, but they still get money from the state
they get waivers
in order to house them, take care of them,
and
things like that.
If you're in Newcastle, there's quite a few of those homes that are kind of around. So yeah, there is a thing that's like, oh, we're going to get back. We're going to really invest in this. And it's like, I'll say this, I don't think it was, if I recall correctly, it was Democrat governor at the time when some of that stuff got shut down. So
a lot of that was federally funded as well.
But they were just yanking. But that's a thing that the state used to be more involved
in. That era from 1998 to 2005, the state of Indiana was in a very different fiscal position, where bills weren't getting paid, and the state was not doing well economically. We've come out with a reinvented economy on the other side of GM and Chrysler and so many of the old legacy UAW shops disappearing.
Daniels.
Sure. Professor or President Emeritus of Purdue University now, right?
Maybe future senator. That's what the rumors say.
Who knows? There's
maybe future president. We don't know.
His wife says no. We'll see how that one shakes out. State troopers, he wants to pay $70,000 or more a year. I guess based on inflation. That's just they've got to.
I don't know what a state trooper makes now, starting out, because that's what he was going to be raising the starting pay to. So
I could be wrong. Don't hate me, but I think that they're not start, but I think they're pretty quickly in the mid 60s. So it's not not a huge. I don't think that's a huge bump.
That might just be like an inflation rate.
But they do, I believe, negotiate their own. Like when the state will announce like salary changes or whatever, the state police are their own deal. They're off all by themselves. On
all right, they're fraternal order police
negotiated separately. So but I don't think that's it looks nice because it's a threshold, but I don't think that's a huge bump for them.
I'm watching and I'm previewing what we got coming up over here. But the House is, as of right now, attempting to adjourn again tonight. They're attempting to adjourn. If they can't get enough votes to say they're going to go home for the night, they just have to stay in session infinitely. And they were tied until just now at 206. Now they're tied again, 207 to 207 to go home. And there's only 20 votes that aren't cast yet. And a lot of these people may have already gone home.
I want them sleeping on the floor. I want them sleeping on the floor.
It's literally 207 Democrats saying stay, 207 Republicans saying go home, and nobody else is there's still 20 votes outstanding.
And so on the floor, and the heat turned back down. For the
All right, back to the governor's agenda, Dakota.
Holcomb also said that he wants to increase funding for fire departments because obviously the state does not really have a hand in how much firemen are making, or as my son calls them, firefighters. So he wants to increase funding for equipment and training for fire departments across the state. And I was kind of curious. I don't know.
Nobody's made the case for that one. That's a little bit of a flyer.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about a lot of issues on this show over the years, and I've not heard a hell of a lot of firemen say, I don't have what I need. I've heard that from police officers. I've heard that from mental health. And I'm not saying that it's not an issue, but I've not heard that. I've heard it from EMS. We've seen Knightstown just shut their EMS down.
Yep.
And we've seen fire department and EMS services combined in a number of areas. But we've not heard, hey, we don't have the money we need for training. And we have, where we are, we have one professional fire department. Or I think the city of Newcastle is the only professional fire department. Everything else is volunteer.
Yes.
At the township level. Yeah. We have one township with two fire departments that are dueling in Spiceland Township.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Dunreath and Spiceland are going to have a civil war.
Yeah.
Isn't the only way to solve that as a chili cook-off?
Yeah.
I
forgot Dunreath is in Spiceland Township.
I think some sort of a hose-off.
Yeah.
Spray each other with fire hoses.
There has to be some kind of like Olympics, like just like a Saturday battle royale, like a chili cook-off, tug of war, like that game they play where they stretch the ball on a cable and they bounce it back and forth with there's some way to decide.
They're trying to determine chain of command, and maybe it is an annual decision based upon who wins maybe a charity chili cook-off.
Yeah,
I think you've solved world peace, at least township.
Yeah, I think that's yeah.
And just so you guys know, we've judged them before.
We have
experience.
We have done it. I was going to say maybe the county commissioners or the township board could do it, but you're right. We'll do it as the three of us will do it.
Yeah.
And remember, noodles don't belong in chili.
That's just incorrect.
I'm not that picky.
Oh, see, now we got a left, a right, and a middle.
I'm not that picky either. I mean, I'll eat them without noodles. I'll eat them with noodles.
All right.
As long as it's got enough chili powder in it,
Dakota,
it's really fine.
you buried the lead. Is cannabis going to be okay?
Yeah, so at the very end, I was trying to look into things cannabis related. There was a committee meeting at the end of November, I think. Basically, this committee was looking at marijuana and recreational and medicinal uses. They had a lot of marijuana advocates come and speak at the committee. They also had people who were against it. Most notably, they had the president of the Indiana Prosecutors Association, I think is the name of it. He was there talking about how, marijuana, basically stating the case against marijuana legalization in any form. There was a person there that was trying to represent employer law, basically saying that Indiana has a hard enough time trying to find qualified employees. We don't need to make it easier for people to access drugs that would make them fail drug tests.
Wait a minute. If you're saying it's going to make it harder to can't you just legalize it and then the employers will stop screening for it?
Well, one would think.
Unless it's essential to their job.
Unless it is it's still federally, there has to be some kind of regulation with OSHA doing a drug test after an accident.
Don't worry, the federal government should be functional within hours.
I work for a state agency, and we do not test for marijuana. But yeah, some employers are going to, because you can't operate machinery.
Yeah, my industry's always going to.
Yeah.
There's a chance you could fall into a big kettle of liquid steel and vaporize.
Well, the difference is like testing. No one's drawing or testing to see if you drank beer 30 days ago.
Yeah.
When you get to your job in the morning.
But if you have an accident, they might make you go do a blood draw. So let those people do that if they need to.
Right. I mean, there is technology out there to tell if someone is currently intoxicated or under the influence of marijuana. We need to be doing that instead of seeing if they still have it, and seeing if someone took a vacation to Denver, Colorado, and 4 weeks after their vacation they had an accident, and you say, oh, they were inebriated at the time. Because that's just asinine. That doesn't work that way.
Shouldn't have gone to Colorado. Sinners.
But anyway, in this whole also the American Cancer Society was there, and they said that if marijuana was legalized in the state, there needed to be legislation to prohibit smoking in any outdoor public space because it exposed people to harmful smoke. I thought that was interesting that they would show up and give that piece.
They should hang out beside my kid's school because I smelled it outside my kid's school today. Picking my kid up from school. So
when you were in high school, the high schoolers were smoking too.
I don't know. I didn't know what it smelled like in high school. I didn't learn what
cigarettes, weed, anything.
Yeah, something. But I mean, like I got a hit of it today, picking my elementary school kid up. And I was like,
they were just
really?
trying to prepare.
Yeah, I was like, really? Yeah, somebody's probably hotboxing in the pickup line. But
Governor Holcomb did give his own opinion on the committee hearings, and he said that his opinion has not changed, and until it has been descheduled or legalized at the federal level, then he would not consider signing a bill that legalized marijuana in the state of Indiana.
Sure. He's hiding behind that. The governor also doesn't have to agree to it. They can override him with the same people that passed the bill to start with. We'll see where it goes. He's an old fuddy-duddy. If he runs for Senate, he can fix it. Because we're going to have an open Senate seat. And then, more important than anything else, the governor said that he is in favor of Indiana having an official sandwich.
That's right. He said that we could see a bill come down the pipeline that makes the breaded tenderloin the official sandwich of the state of Indiana. And I tried looking this. You made this remark in the planning chat.
Yes.
So I tried Googling Indiana session 2023 tenderloin sandwich. And all I could find was articles that were like clickbait articles telling you what were the best restaurants to find breaded tenderloins.
If you are a patron, you have access to the super secret Facebook group, and the show notes are in there. And I went back and I remade the show notes with a link to an article that references it.
I saw it mentioned somewhere else a day or two.
And then there was a tweet that I'm going to tell y'all. I found the tweet myself and I sent it to Rob Kendall, and then Rob Kendall spun it up into Rob Kendallhood. But I started it.
What did Rob say? I'll do my best impression.
All right.
I can't do his voice, but I'll just say the words I think he said. Really? What a freaking joke. Eric Holcomb is going to waste our time and our taxpayer money by making an official sandwich for the state of Indiana? Aren't there better things that he could be doing with his time?
Their tweet came from Eric Berman, who used to be, I don't know if he's still at MS and WIBC. I know it's not MS anymore, but the talk radio powerhouse in Indianapolis. I think he's gone from there now. But Eric Berman, he said, Holcomb, there will be a bill to declare the breaded tenderloin Indiana's official sandwich. Kickback Kendall said, Holcomb and Indiana Republican Party has no plan to help you with skyrocketing property taxes, but they're all over an official state sandwich.
They got to distract you.
And I hit that nail on the head. I've listened to enough Rob Kendall to know.
Yep. I saw that and I went, oh my God.
Yeah, I saw some Rob Kendall on Facebook this week.
The only thing that penetrated my radar from the governor's speech on that date was the Tenderloin thing. That was the first thing that came through. Twitter knew what I wanted to hear. And that was the news that came through. And I think that is going to piss some people off. Your priorities are out of whack, because Rob is right. As we've seen property taxes increase, we're going to see property taxes increase, not because the rate's going up. And maybe it's the money that's going to pay for all of these new teachers and money and all the, that's where all the found money is going to come from, is because your $75,000 house is worth $150,000 and your $250,000 house is now a $500,000 house.
Or depending on the neighborhood, your $75,000 house is now worth $300,000.
And there's no mechanism that says that they can't charge you $5,000 a year on your $500,000 house. The only restriction that's in place is they can't go more than 1%
percentages
of the assessed value. And your assessed value can increase pretty quickly, like $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. I know in the time I've owned my house, my property taxes have increased about 40%. Now they're not asinine, and Indiana still has damn low property taxes compared to a lot of other states, but it is going to make a difference. And
for sure.
And there's going to be some people that are very frustrated by it. And you're going to have people that are going to say, I'm not going to sell my house. I'm trapped in my house. What are we going to do? So these are the kinds of issues that a state that's doing very well has, right? We're not arguing over how are we going to pay for schools next year, and are we going to fire a bunch of teachers, fire a bunch of cops. They're talking about trying to raise wages. They're talking about trying to invest in programs that are good for society. So Indiana's in a pretty solid spot. You're trying to take a B to an A+, right? The federal government, Dakota.
Very different scenario. Where it's not looking so hot.
Muncie's Congresswoman Victoria Spartz, born in the Ukraine, but one of the most conservative members in the House of Representatives, who theoretically is trying to run for U.S. Senate. She has been making news, and she's actually on the live CNN broadcast right now. She's one of 434 members of Congress that have been showing up, members of the House of Representatives, and they have to have a majority of people vote for a speaker. And on the first two ballots, she was solidly with Kevin McCarthy. And then she's just started voting present. So they've just had their 11th ballot for Speaker of the House, and she's been voting. She's just been there. She just says present. That's all. That's her gig. That's what she said.
It's very interesting for a rookie,
She's not a rookie.
She's not? Or
no, this is her second
this
term.
This is just a different district.
Yes, she got redrawn. So I think she's generally represented Hamilton County and Fishers and that area.
Okay.
But yeah, she just got drawn into Muncie. So Janine Lee Lake beat was her opponent, but Victoria won re-election. Things we've learned this week.
She never made my radar before.
Things we've learned this week. You don't have to be a member of Congress to be the Speaker of the House.
Didn't know that.
Justin Amash, who was elected to Congress, I think he served 8 years or 4 terms from Grand Rapids, Michigan. His last term, he served as a Libertarian. He was elected as a Republican. And his biggest criticism of the House of Representatives, he said that when you get elected to Congress, you only get to count one vote that matters, and that's your vote for Speaker. After you pick the Speaker, you're powerless. You're shut out of every meeting, every conversation, everything that's happening. Essentially, bills get dropped on you, and you have to vote yes or no, and that's it. And the Rules Committee is the committee that does all of the work. It's really not the Ways and Means. It's not the Ag Committee. It's not all of these other groups and subcommittees that we have in Indiana that bills actually get worked on and talked about. They have not had a floor amendment since 2015. So in Indiana, we have a first reading, a second reading, a third reading, and we go through and you can offer all these amendments and they'll debate and they'll have conversations. The U.S. Congress is not used to doing that at all. We just don't do, it's not been that way. And as embarrassing as this probably is for the country and frustrating because nothing has actually happened, it's been the most work that these guys have had to do of actually having real debates and real conversations and solving issues in my adult lifetime. Does that make sense to you, Dakota?
Yeah.
And essentially what you have is you have like 5 or 6 people that absolutely will not vote for Kevin McCarthy, who is the Republican leader, and they only have a 4-seat majority. So if every Democrat votes, they can only allow themselves to lose 4. There's been some fun pettiness that has happened on Sunday night, Monday night. I think this all started. They gavelled in on Tuesday. I've lost track of the days, Dakota.
Yeah.
This is the third day. So on Tuesday, they started doing this. So on Monday night, the McCarthy people felt pretty good, so they started moving his stuff into the Speaker's office.
That's where it all went wrong.
They moved the furniture in, and then he lost on the first ballot, and they thought, well, maybe the guy's going to lose 5 or 6 spots, and it'll be a protest deal, and that'll be it. Well, on the first vote, he lost 19 of the Republicans. So Hakeem Jeffries of New York State had the most votes. And then they did it again. They all coalesced around another candidate, and the candidate had said, no, I don't want it. Jordan out of Ohio, and 19 votes again. And then the next ballot comes out, and it's at 20 votes. And then they're like, okay, fine, we'll go. They gave up. They just voice vote, adjourned to go home, tried to figure it out overnight, and then the next day they started losing sparks as well. So now they're at 21 people that are not voting for McCarthy. They've now voted 11 times. Kevin McCarthy, who has moved his stuff into the Speaker's office, has not finished in first place in a single one of these votes for Speaker. He's finished second. That's the funniest part to me, is that there's 212 Democrats that have voted together every time, and McCarthy's now down to 200 votes. So it's 212 Democrat, 200 Republican. And this is the other thing I had no idea of. You can't do anything until you elect a Speaker. It's like a boot loop. It's like you're trapped in a boot loop. If you're trying to turn a computer on, it's like, okay, you have to get past this screen. Oh, you can't do it? We can turn it off.
Because they're the ones that decide what gets seen and what doesn't.
They accept the rule. They set the rules. I mean, they don't even get sworn in. There's nobody that's Greg Pence is not a congressman right now. He's a congressman-elect. We don't have a congressman. So these people they're not getting security briefings. So if you served on the Armed Services Committee, they can't talk to you. There are department heads that say, sorry, we can't talk to you. You're a nobody right now. So you're trying to call up the Department of State and try to solve somebody's passport issue. They're not helping you because you're not a congressman's office. They're not helping you. Their staff, as of next week, is going to stop getting paid. So they're all saying, Kevin McCarthy says, we'll go 500 votes. I don't care, which would be months, right? They're getting 3 or 4 votes a day. Nobody's going to get paid. They're going to have, at some point, they're going to get hungry. There's like 85-year-old people that have to stand there and vote every day. Like, this is 3 or 4 days of this. Okay, yeah, fine, sure, whatever. But there's going to be a breaking point, and I don't know what it. I'm looking at it going, at some point, McCarthy, if there's 5 people that absolutely won't vote for McCarthy, it's going to be one of 2 things. It's either going to be some Democrats come over and say, fine, let's just stop the bleeding and we're going to do this, and 5 or 6 of them vote for McCarthy, and then they're just done. Or the Republicans give up and find somebody else that they can actually get pushed through. And I don't know which one it is, but it's just a game of stubbornness But eventually
Or-
nobody's going to get paid
Or some Republicans go over.
and vote for
vote
Hakeem
for
Jeffries.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Well, as they start voting present, what that does is it just drops the number that they have to have.
Right.
They can't have very many people not there because if the 212 for the Democrats keep showing up, Hakeem Jeffries is going to be elected Speaker of the House.
Right.
And that's why would you say they're trying to vote to adjourn, and the Republicans can't get the votes together because the Democrats are like, we're staying.
Yeah, we're staying.
We're staying.
All 212 stayed, and they voted, and it was they literally just voted to adjourn until noon tomorrow. They had been doing 3 votes a day. They start at noon, and they've been trying to finish it up around 5 o'clock. Yesterday, they barely got out of there at 5 o'clock, so they had done 6. Today, they voted 5 times, and they were a whisper away from not getting to adjourn there. It's unreal. It really is. This has not happened since they went 9 rounds 100 years ago.
100 years ago.
And now they're into like pre-Civil War.
Something tells me I need to start studying up on my history from the 1920s because stuff's coming around. Like it's just like a little pandemic to kick it off.
The more things change, the more they stay the
Yeah,
same.
you're just like, man, it's like if this is, yeah.
So as I look at it, there's basically these 21 votes that are saying no every time. No to Kevin McCarthy. About half of the ones that are saying no, I think, are truly just trying to get real order. They're kind of following the Justin Amash version of, hey, we haven't had any actual debate and any actual power for individual members of Congress, and we're all supposed to be equals. And then there's about 5 to 10 of them that are just there because they're pissed off at Kevin McCarthy or they are trying to raise money and elevate their profiles. Right?
They're in hardcore
Yeah.
Trump area.
Yeah.
Even though Trump endorsed Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah. Trump has endorsed McCarthy. Zach's favorite Congresswoman, Taylor Greene out of Georgia, she's on Team McCarthy. It's not like it's not a left and a right. It's just these weird factions that have developed.
Yeah.
But what has been interesting, the other key part of this is that apparently C-SPAN, once they elect a speaker, has to follow the rules that the speaker puts in place for where the cameras and how they operate. And until they have a speaker,
it's like
C-SPAN can do whatever the hell they
It's
want.
like the Wild West. They can just go wherever.
So they're just zooming in and watching this person talk to that person, and they are catching all of the background. There are going to be so many gifts out of this week because these members are having to be in the room and actually talk to each other.
They go like full guerrilla media and just run around like crazy.
There's been bad lip reading out there now based upon them.
That.
It's been spectacular. The meme economy is going to benefit very much, at least after the first couple of days.
It's comical because it's what politicians do.
It's what they deserve. At some point, though, like shit's not going to get funded. Like I don't know, you're a federal employee. At some point, it's going to be a problem for you. They can't go 3 months without passing spending bills.
Luckily, they just passed. Did they just pass? They passed some.
Yeah, that's one of the main concerns is that they did a massive thing to finish the last Congress, and that's been one of the debate points. Is hey, you told us you could trust us that you would come in and you would pass this. Well, thank God we didn't because there would be no for Congress.
Yeah.
But these people have their families there waiting to take the oath of office. You're a brand new congressman. You're coming into town with your family ready to get sworn in. Kids are out of school from Idaho or whatever. Wait around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you still haven't taken the pictures or done anything.
And you don't start getting paid till you get sworn in, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Can
you imagine when their staff stop getting paid and they have to go get their own coffee?
Or you're trying to you're trying to hire a staff?
Awful.
Yeah.
Just awful.
And they have to go get their own coffee, like some kind of.
Imagine having to pick up your own lunch.
Yeah.
Oh,
your own dry cleaning?
like a commoner. What do I have to
I
drive?
bet they can't get into the congressional gym. Yeah.
God help whoever actually gets the job of being the Speaker of the House. What do you think, Dakota? When's this gonna get resolved?
I don't know. I've been following it just for the funny parts.
You know
I follow up.
You know who hasn't done any leadership yet, and I haven't heard him make a single speech or make a wave? Our congressman.
Yeah.
Not
Greg
a word.
Pence.
He's voted for McCarthy every time. I haven't seen a speech. I haven't seen anything. But these guys do have to go to the floor every time to vote.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing is you don't just press the button on the machine. You have to wait on your name to get called.
Yes.
and then you have to answer. And then if you don't answer, you have to go back at the end, and they clean up the people that were in the bathroom or whatever, or were off in meetings.
Oh, that sounds like they deserve it. Like, that sounds tedious. Like, they're basically going through like a
That's
high
what's
school
so
graduation ceremony, just over and over and over.
No, they're just taking attendance, Zach.
I know, but yeah, but
it's just attendance.
But for 434, whatever,
It's supposed to be 435, but somebody died. So 434.
So that's why I'm talking about. Like, it's like a high school graduation where you have to listen to them read off every single name.
And they know it's a lost vote at the C's. Like, they literally get to the C's, and they know they're screwed, but they have to go through them all. But in the C's, they know this is a waste of time. But until they get an agreement, they have to. That's the only thing they can do. The clerks have got to just be ready to scream, and they're running the house. They're in charge.
It sounds. I mean, it's funny. It's so funny to me because it's like there's no. For the average person, at least for a little while, doesn't affect us at all. But for once, it's something that is just wildly embarrassing and inconvenient to actual Congress, who normally are sitting there with no actual impact to themselves at all, while the rest of the country is like on the verge, like, and the government's about to shut down. It's Congress gets paid. It's the federal employees that are just trying to work that aren't going to get paid. And this is funny. This is kind of coming back on them.
Joe Bishop Henchman. I know we want to be done, Dakota. Joe Bishop Henchman was the chairman of the Libertarian Party for a while, and he's very plugged in. He lives in D.C. He tweeted out that the congressional calendar, and they only work 12 Fridays a year. Like, that's it. They do not work that many Fridays. They work 4-day weeks generally, and they weren't going to be there this Friday, and they just added their 13th, and it's tomorrow. They have to come back tomorrow now. These people were all supposed to fly out today, go home to their districts, have it done a little bit of a ceremonial week, whatever, and go home, and that's it. And now you're coming back tomorrow. So they've already are all pissed off because they've all had to cancel their flights, change their flights. They're not supposed to be here.
Who breaks teams first? A Republican or a Democrat?
At some point, my prediction is that Kevin McCarthy is going to say, okay, fine. I can't get elected. We've got to move on. And don't just because if that guy stepped aside, they would find somebody and they would get it done. But they don't want to be shamed into having lost.
Just based on what I'm seeing, I haven't really been paying that close attention. I think the Republicans are just going to have to get it straightened out because the Democrats seem like they're very unified. And ultimately, this doesn't look bad for them. This looks like they're not really in power. They're voting how people expect them to vote. It's the Republicans that are just kind of having this whole cluster. And so they'll just sit back and let this go because it looks, and eventually if it breaks down to one of them getting elected speaker, great. But other than that, let the Republicans eat themselves.
My dad's pointing out in the chat that Rob Kendall says that that Kevin McCarthy has now lost as many times as the Indianapolis Colts. 11. 0-11. At least the Colts won a few along the way. That's the thing. He's not even finished first. McCarthy has been second place 11 times. He's lost 11 times.
I saw somebody, a comedian, Patty Vasquez from Chicago, and she also was in some politics, and she posted like a video of Mike McCarthy on the House floor, and it was a video of like a kid from one of
Kevin McCarthy. Mike McCarthy coaches the Dolphins. Yeah, I'm in for Mike McCarthy as Speaker of the House. Yeah. That'd be great.
Let's go, Pat.
No, I'm sorry. Wait.
Pat
Mike McCarthy coaches the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
Who the hell coaches? Mike McDaniel coaches the Dallas.
It was a video of a kid.
The other ones.
One of those I can't think what it was, like those Japanese, but it's a kid who's up and there's like a swinging arm that's covered in pads, and every time he stands up, it just knocks him down again. He just keeps getting up and looks around and just knocks him over again, over and over again. And that was just kind of, for the comedy, it's been great. So
these are not people that are used to losing.
No, and I don't feel bad for any of them.
No.
That's the best part about it is it's a group of people that you don't have to feel bad for at all because they're all rich going in. They're going to come out suspiciously rich when they're done, and they'll done like curiously rich. Like somehow they get paid $100 and some thousand, but after 2 years they'll be millionaires.
At some point, it's just going to turn into physical toll of they have to keep doing this, and who's going to drop, right? How late are they going to go tomorrow? Are they going to finally just say the hell with this? They went 5 ballots today. I don't know who the oldest member of Congress is, but there's people that were born in the 1930s that are serving. So they're in their upper 80s.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't see
Grandpa's up past his bedtime.
Yeah. I don't feel bad for any of them.
Just like Dakota.
No, me either.
All right. Zach, you got any predictions?
No. I'm just going to sit back and watch and laugh.
Who's the speaker going to be? McCarthy?
I think it's somebody else because can you imagine if we go like days and days and days and they just elect the first guy that they chose? Like, what was the point?
That's what's happened every other time when this has gone hundreds of they've gone with the other one. It could be Jeffries. I'll give you the three choices. Jeffries. Good Lord. I keep wanting to say McConnell.
McCarthy?
Yeah, Jeffries, McCarthy, or somebody else. A third path.
Somebody else.
Dakota?
Justin Amash.
Why the hell not? Christy says pick Justin Amash. I think it's going to be somebody else, too. I don't think it's going to be... I think McCarthy just simply doesn't have the votes, and I don't know how long it's going to take him to recognize that. I'm going to laugh my ass off if it's Jeffries. That's going to be the funniest thing ever is if they lose... if the Republicans have the votes and lose the House.
I think that would be really fascinating because you would hope it wouldn't happen because let's look at what they're doing now. You would hope then that would force some level of cooperation because how insane would it be to have a Congress that's controlled by one party in vote count, but is actually the House is being controlled by the other party in terms of getting anything. So they would, your hope would be
almost have divided.
They would have to be cooperative. There would have to be some level of cooperation.
How do you handle committee assignments? How do you handle all of that stuff? Is just an absolute quagmire. But it would be interesting to see.
Maybe that's how we should rewrite the Constitution. The minority party gets to pick the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
They just get to appoint someone.
As a political experiment, it would be very interesting to see how that would work.
I hope that what happens here is that these people haven't actually dealt with each other and talked to each other and been in the same room because they all just run to their offices right out on the floor and do what they want to do. And this actually creates a little bit of a network where there are some relationships formed that benefit the country 2 years down the road, 4 years down the road, 6 years down the road. And reasonable people find each other the same way we're able to do at the local level here.
Yeah,
that's what I would hope. That's Pollyannic as hell, but that's
my
one hope.
It was like it'd be fascinating if they could like make it work, but like they can't. Yeah, so how amazing would it be if like
eventually they'll settle. Eventually they'll settle up, and they will all vote to control more of our lives and raise our taxes some more. All right, Zach, you got final thoughts for me?
No, I mean, not too much. It was a bummer of a week for anybody. We did hear good news if anybody watched Monday Night Football. A guy dropped dead on the field, like literally went into cardiac arrest. He apparently is awake and is concerned about who won the game. So that's fantastic news.
So is everybody else at this point.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next far secondary, but trying to figure out how to handle that game because it's two of the top three teams in the AFC.
And then as a car guy, Barbara Walters passed away last weekend, and I don't know anybody like my generation kind of knows her because we all watched TGIF on Friday nights, and that was 2020 with her and Hugh Downs was on there. And
I remember Hugh Downs getting his surgery,
total knee replacement. He watched it. I remember I watched it. He watched his knee be replaced on a TV and was awake. And he's like, I can't really feel the pain, but I can feel my bones shaking because they're just using hacksaws. And then anybody that's Facebook friends with me knows that I'm super bummed about the passing of Kim Block. And if anybody is a car person, they understand that how big of a juggernaut that man was and how much the automotive world will never be the same because of Kim Block and trying to put into words what that guy has done for car people. And people don't know him. He was a co-founder of DC Shoes. So he started designing skate shoes because his tennis shoes were getting torn up by skateboards. And then he eventually sold out of that for like somewhere approaching $100 million and decided he wanted to be a rally car driver. And it turns out he was really good at it. And I'm trying to put into words what he was is like almost the Tiger Woods of cars in that he wasn't the best, although he won a lot of championships. He was very good, but he brought it into like a
He brought it into consumer media with his YouTube channel.
And just go look up Gymkhana videos and watch all 10 or 12 or whatever of them are. They're fantastic. He just released the last one. The most recent one was actually done by Travis Pastrana, who is also kind of in a similar league with him. But he did one with an electric Audi that they don't even know how much it cost. It was probably like a $2 million car in Vegas. And it's an amazing video the way they shoot him. So that was a bummer. Like, I'm still kind of just like, he was a super cool guy. It'd been nice to have seen, like, I was catching up with Dinner with Racers. I love to have had a Dinner with Racers with Ken Block. It would have been fantastic. But other than that, just
snowmobile accident too.
Random snowmobile accident. I think with his family, and he was by himself at the moment, I guess, but was out with people at the time. And if anybody's watched video of what this guy's capable of doing, it's like, you hope that nothing like that would happen to him, but he hung a car off the side of Pikes Peak doing one of his videos. So yeah, just one of those tragedies. And then I think there was another guy that's done like the trucks for some Pierce. I can't think of his name. They brought him up on Hinch and Rossi's podcast, passed away in a scuba diving accident. So it's like, it's been a rough start to the year. So it always feels like, oh, we got all this optimism, and it kind of gets crushed a little bit. It's just like a rough start. But hopefully the year will smooth out. We'll be entertained for a couple more days by Congress doing their thing. And other than that, no, not really. Just I'm plugging away. I'm still running. So,
Dakota?
I'm just going to say that I'm looking forward to next week's show. It should be a good one. We're going to hopefully be having Travis Thompson on, who's going to be putting on a 5K, 10K, and a half marathon in the city of Newcastle. So it'll be good to talk to Travis about his background in running and what's any other events that are coming on in Newcastle. So should be good.
Might be another foundational event for the city. For me, final thoughts here. Very interesting news from the world of General Motors and Andretti Autosport, based in Indianapolis. Michael Andretti, Mario Andretti have been trying to start an F1 team. So if you're a Drive to Survive fan, you're familiar with F1. Most expensive budgets in the world. They tried to start a team, and F1 said, yeah, no, go away. We don't want you. The only way we could possibly want you is if you bring a new manufacturer in to the series. And today they announced they have General Motors.
Hold my beer.
With Cadillac.
Yeah. That's insane. I saw that and I was like, checkmate. Dude just pulled.
The biggest automaker in North America. They just passed Toyota again and got back to first place. And now they are going to go F1 racing.
I want to see the FIA tell them no. I want to see him tell Cadillac no. Whose motto is literally the standard of the world. Tell them no. Yeah, good for. And it was a kind of a weird announcement during the week last week that he had joined up with Wayne Taylor Racing, and they're going to be going to Amsterdam. And you're like,
racing Cadillacs.
Racing Cadillac. You're like, well, that's a weird combination. And all of a sudden he drops this, and you're like, oh. The door crack open for that one, and it's like, yes, I want to see. Yeah, because they like, and it's literally, it's not that we don't think you could add something to the series. It's that these teams that have these 9-digit budgets don't want to share any money, so they don't want another team, because if another team comes up, then they lose their share of this, and they don't want to share anymore. It's not a good reason; it's just a money reason. So, like, I want you to go tell Cadillac no.
Go tell them we don't want your money, your investment, your technology. And they're going to be based. They're probably going to be a more American F1 team than the Haas team is, that's based in North Carolina. Andretti is building a powerhouse of a facility just 45 miles away from where the studio sits in Castleton, Indiana, or Hamilton County, Fishers, whatever.
Yeah, Fishers.
The I-69 corridor. So, anyway, with that, we got more to watch, more to be excited about. We'll be back next week. Every day in January is getting longer, Dakota. There's more than 30 minutes of extra daylight in this month than at the end of this month than there was at the beginning.
There we go.
Optimism. We're going to find optimism. With that, we'll see you next week.